Welcome to Session Settings. My settings, your settings. Hey, I'm Eric, and in this video we're gonna look at how we can control some of the things that are happening in my settings. At least that's what it's called in the English version of Business Central. Let's get right into it, and let me show you what I'm talking about. Here is a Business Central, and as a power user, I of course just press Alt T to get into my settings. Other power users will use the power of the menu and go to my settings this way. And my settings has some interesting things. Has what is your role, aka profile. What company are you in? What is your work date? What is the region, the language, the time zone? Some other things here, notification and teaching tips. But we can actually control this from AL. So we potentially can change it, and the construct for working with this is a special data type. It's even a complex data type, as the documentation is saying, called session settings. It's kind of weird. So let me show you how it works, and then we can look at how it does not work. So here is a very small version. Here is the Magna print version. So the first thing we need is a variable of type session settings. You could have more than one if you want. So it's kind of weird, and it certainly is a different pattern from most other things we see in AL and Business Central. Anyway, so the first thing you should do, so when you have this, it kind of works like a code unit. So you get it, and then it's empty. So a good practice is to say init. So now you're loading whatever stuff you have here into this variable. And now we could do company and say that I want to switch to my company. So we have init this, and then we're told switch to company, my company. So if I deploy this, and it's an action called try, because we're really trying here, and it's under processing. We're gonna deploy. I'm running this is a Docker based Business Central version 18. Point 3. So process try. And nothing happened. We're still in Cronus. And the reason for nothing happening is that basically we just, into this variable, we told, hey, change the company in the variable. But what we need to do now is actually to tell this guy we want to request a session update. And this one takes a parameter. Should we save the settings in personalization, or should we not save? So we'll go for not save. And then after this, we're gonna do a message saying, hello, YouTube. You would imagine I would be able to type YouTube by now, but it's clear I can't. So we init, we change the company, and we do a request session update. And then we do a message, hello. So let's try this. Success, we are deployed. Debugger is running. So here we go. Let's try. Come on. So we will try. We got a message, and then you know, you saw the message just for a moment, and then the session reloaded, and we're in the other company. So let's just switch back to this guy. Okay, so that was kind of weird, right? Because we put up a message and we saw it briefly, and then it disappeared. So let's change that to a we can just do, you know, if find, well, let's do the proper, if rec.find first, then message rec.name. We're on customers right now. No, actually, then let's repeat and do until rec.next equals 0. Because the way next works, and I'm totally telling this to Waldo because he showed some crazy screenshots on Twitter the other day, that the parameter to next is how many steps. So we should actually do next one, saying we want the next record. We could say -1, but that doesn't really work if we do find set, which we want to do actually. So this one would then return -1 if it succeeded. You could also do next 10, and then we will jump 10 records ahead. Anyway, we want next 1, and that's the same as no parameters. And if it does not succeed to go 1 ahead, we'll return a 0, and then we are done. Okay, sorry. So now we're getting some messages. So let's see what happens here. And I may need to click very fast. So let's see if we can do this. So we are in Kronos. I click try. We got something, and then the session is cancelled. So the point I'm trying to bring across here is that this command is reloading the session, and basically you should not do anything after this one. This should be the last command, the last statement, because it's, you see, we get execution, but at the same time, at some point we don't. We could try to use sleep, then do 10,000 milliseconds. Let's see what happens in that case. Anyway, now I'm just trying to break stuff here. Request session update should be the last thing you do, and at that point the session will reload with whatever parameters you have given it. So we're just trying to see if we can break stuff. So try 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi, 9. I was not counting right. So it actually completed, but I don't think you can count on that being now sleep is a very blocking function. I don't want to import entries. So yeah, don't do anything after that one. Okay, so that's pretty neat. If we want to give a user a way to switch over to a specific company, we could incorporate a company switch into our UI. So imagine you do some things intercompany posting and then post and switch to new company on an intercompany journal or stuff like that. Then those are the 3 lines you want to do. So notice that actually, let me just do this again. Sorry. And while the 10 seconds pass, so what I want to mention here is that we told it not to save, meaning that we are switching to my company here, but we haven't really switched the company selected on the personalization. Meaning that if I now go to, and now I'm just going to set this to true, but so I'll start a new session for me, Eric, and see, the last session ended in my company, and now we're getting a new session, and the new session is in Kronos because we did not save this. Did I remove the 10 seconds? Yeah, I did. So so in here, I'm Kronos, but now that we set it to true, and I do try, we get a new company. So we're in my company. I will deploy a new session here. Come on, BC. So we are deploying a new session. And that session is also in my company because we said true. So true will update what you have stored on the profile. So there's a slight difference there. So far so good. Company function, great. That works perfectly. So I was actually reading the documentation because something strange happened, and what we can see that we can change the company. We have used the init. We can change the language, the region. I think is the official name here. It's called region here, but it's called locale. In the code, we can select a profile, meaning a role. If we have a role from another extension, we can use profile app ID to specify the extension and profile ID to specify the extension, specify the profile, and then we can say a scope. And I'm not sure the scope actually works on cloud, but I haven't really tried it. Request session update, that's the one we already used. Then we can set the time zone. And the time zone was actually the reason I started poking around with this settings thing. So if we look at time zone here, there's even a nice little example. So we can do time zone. We specify the Windows name of the time zone. And the Windows name of the time zone is what we get when we see the ID here. So this one says display name is Baja California, but actually the Windows ID of this time zone is called Pacific Standard Time Mexico. So, and we have a time zone called UTC here, and then CUT in the display name, but who cares? So let me do, so there's a great example here, and this example creates a session settings object that's probably recurrent blah blah blah, and we set it to UTC. So let's grab, we'll just recode that. So what we want to replicate here is time zone UTC and false. So we're just not gonna save that we're suddenly somewhere else. We're just gonna change into us being in UTC temporary. So let's try this. And as soon as we get to try, then we need, how do we actually see on data in BC what time zone we're in? So let's try this. We get a new session. So in here, it still says Baja. There's nothing changed. So how do we actually verify what time zone BC think it's in? Well, the best way I have found, and if you have found another way, I would love to know in the comments below. So let's do another function here called, let's call it verify. And so this is how I do it. There's a code unit called type helper. I think there's actually a video on type helper. So good time to mention, how about subscribe to the channel. So if I do something like is %2 equal to is %1 equal to %2. So %1 would be current date time. So this will return. So remember, the date time data type in BC is stored as UTC but displayed as in the time zone. So we can get that, and then we can use, let me see if I can get rid of that. Then we can use in the type helper, there is a function called format UTC date. So we can take current date time again, and there might be a millisecond between those two calls, and we don't care about that, to be honest. And just give it a couple of parameters to say that we're just gonna grab whatever time zone we're in right now. And run this. So we're trying to set the time zone. We're trying to verify what time zone we're in. So let's call verify. And this tells me that this is Wednesday the 8th at 9:30 in the night. It's pitch black outside. And at UTC, it's almost morning. So I better get over with this video. Okay, so that's great. Let's run the process. So what we're doing is exactly this scenario. So start a new session and use new profile ID. That's another copy paste thing. So there may be room for improvements on the documentation here. Anyway, now we're in the new session. So we try our verify, and we're still on the West Coast. This one is still saying Baja. So here's what I found is that this simply doesn't work. What we can do is this. So if we ask to update and store the time zone, and while that loads, let me clean up some of all these tabs. So the reason I ended up here in the first time is specifically this sentence. This method can also be used with web service sessions. Not sure how. If you know, let me know in the comments below, because I've not been able to make this work because we cannot reload a web service session. So now let's try again. We switch our time zone, hopefully. I'll do the verify. And now current date time is the same as UTC current date time. But now we have logged into our session that we are always in UTC, which was not really what I was hoping for, but I guess I'll take that. And we can go back to the Mexico one. So a long story short, I'm not sure how Timezone works. Certainly not as documented. We can switch it on the session. I don't know how it works with web services, and we cannot switch it temporarily. So there's something is weird. Anyway, if you just want to switch the session with time zones, you can also do that. So let's just go back for a second and say, okay, with session settings, you can change the company, you can change the language, the locale, and all that. It's kind of the same thing if we instead of time zone here, we did the language ID and said, okay, I want this to speak Danish. If I do false, let's see if this is correct. If I do false, then it does not work. Let's just verify it, because otherwise Microsoft is gonna be mad at me if I tell something doesn't work, and it actually works. So we're clearly not Danish right now. Let's try. And we can still understand this, so this is not Danish. If we change this to actually update on the profile, we're almost there. Come on. Come on, BC. Process, let's try. It briefly loads the wrong one, and then it figures out, oh, we need to change the language anyway. So now you can see that this is sø, or the Danish letter Ø. So yeah, now we're in Danish. But so it seems that the parameter to request session updates only works for company, not the other ones. If anybody has any insights, clue to this one, let me know in comments below, because I was kind of struck by that this is weird. But the clear win is that the change company function is really, really neat and incorporated. For a lot of users, it's kind of a pain to switch companies all the time. And you have to go into Control-T and select the company. But if you're working with data that indicates what company you need to go to, it's very, very easy to actually create a on-screen function to switch over to the other company straight away. And I really like that. Anyway, that's it for session settings. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon.